think we're live.
Live and counting.
Yep. All right. Who all's in the house? Looks like Kim Fixes Things was here really early. Big Mike's Hoopty Barn, excited because he could make it. Russell from Outfits is here waiting patiently. Twisted Mopar Garage, I expect he'll be exemplary for passing tech. He's a seasoned racer. Unfinished Project is here with his Comment Dart Sport. Imagine that. Pure Pontiac Garage, glad you could make it. Ron English, the crew chief for Don English, is here. Frankenstein C20. Travis says he's already knows red is not passing tech. What's up, everyone? NSB Custom Cars. The guys from Florida, glad you're here. One-Eyed Cat Dawn is here. First Responder Garage. Kim says we got this tech thing. Last year I forgot to drain the coolant and I had to do it in the middle of the day. Well, this year you got a heads up. How cool is that? Bear Rose Garage, Mohawk 62. Glad you guys can make it. JB's Little Shop says never fear, the deplorable is here. Well, we want this chat to be as deplorable as possible.
I like deplorable.
That's it. Deplorables are good folks.
That's right.
Dean Stevenson here from the other side of the earth, Colleen Tebow. Dizzy Izzy. Backwoods Custom Crap, who just registered. Glad to have you. Cope Racing Transmissions. Levi's Backyard Performance says, good morning from Germany. Levi, are you in Germany? Just Mopar Joe is here. Bigfoots and Mopars. Dude Mopar. All right. And Max Wedge Dick Dastardly. So we got plenty of people in here to get this party started. Dan says, do not drink the coolant. Well, that is good advice.
Not without running it through a coffee filter first.
Yeah, as long as it's not, what is it, Jim Jones coolant.
Right.
Yeah, the red coolant.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
was a year old when that happened.
You're just a pup.
Well, that happened, 45 years ago. Andrew Nelson is here. My mom is in the house. Check that out. Yeah. Well, guys, we just wanted to have a live and talk a little bit about passing tech. So we had Deke on really early in the year. And guess what? All of that stuff didn't go anywhere. And I said we'd have Deke on closer to time. And it's now closer to time.
Voila.
Over a month. But just over a month should be time to tie up any loose ends. And by the way, if I sound like Kermit the Frog, it's because I woke up this morning and the allergy fairy just smacked me. So I've been a little allergies today, but I'm going to power through it. We'll be all right. This is my favorite part of the day, and I really enjoy getting to spend Friday evenings with you guys. So anyway, we just want to cover some stuff. We're going to proactively cover a few things, and then you guys that have any tech questions, please feel free to ask. What we're trying to do is get ahead of September 21st as much as possible because tech is going to be open on Thursday, September 21st from noon until 6. That gives you guys 6 hours of opportunity to get tech inspection over with and already be teched in before the group photo on Friday morning. So that'll be an improvement upon last year to take advantage. And if you got your stuff together when you get there, you can already have that out of the way. You can already be teched in and have that done before we even go to Lambert's and have that off your mind. So we'll just get on a few things here and any questions as you have them. So first things first, I guess we want to make sure all you guys know, because we always get a few new people in here. You guys recognize Dallas up there. And we've got Deke, our tech director, tech official. And Deke does a first-class job of teching in cars. I can say that's definitely the most tech that Jeff sees is when Deke is in the house. So
thank you, John.
Making sure that we've got cars as ready to race as possible. The idea here is not to try to keep people off the track. We want to give people as much opportunity as possible, but we also owe it to everybody who's in that other lane and everybody around that we believe those cars are reasonably fit to be on a track. So First things first, let's just talk a little bit about helmets, because I get this question probably, it's in the top 3. And I got a cheat sheet here from Deke to reference here. We get a lot on helmets. What we've come up with is if your car is 765 or slower in the 8th, all times referenced will be in the 8th. Jefferson's an 8th mile track. And if you're a quarter-mile racer, you know what your car runs in the 8th. But if your car is 765 or slower, you can essentially run whatever helmet you want. It can be a Snell or a DOT, aka motorcycle helmet. If your car is 764 or quicker, you need a Snell 2015 or newer. Do you like to expound upon the helmet rules, Deke and or Dallas?
I think you hit it right on the head.
What is your head worth?
Yeah,
Come on.
The only thing left to say is that if you want to know if your helmet is up to date, Snell helmet, your DOT is the same way. But if you look inside and you pull the padding up on one edge, it'll actually have the date, the year stamped into it, so that you know what year the helmet is. And generally, the only reason why that there's updates on the helmet is if you think about it, worst case scenario, the helmet, the padding and stuff would start to deteriorate just based on ozone eating it up. And that's where all those rules essentially come from.
And the way the discussion that around this, how we came up with 765 and slower, that DOT would be acceptable, is that your speed in the 8th mile is comparable with an interstate highway. So you're basically looking at the same speeds that the helmet was designed for. And the Snells are designed for much faster.
Well, so NSB Custom Cars has a question there. It says, hey, Deke, is it still 5 years on a helmet?
Basically, yes. It's, well, we go by 10 years on the helmet. So a 2015 Snell will be good until the end of 2025. Snell only certifies helmets in 5-year increments. So that's why it makes you think the 5-year, because the next helmet out will be a 20, which is already out. And the next one after that will be the 25, will be the newest helmet. But if you've got a 15 or newer, you are good to run 764 and quicker in the 8th. And I do want to add a little thing there. If your uncle's cousin's nephew had a buddy that used to ride a dirt bike in 1964, the helmet you bring probably won't say DOT or Snell on it anywhere. And I would like to see DOT on the 765 and slower ones at least. And the Snell 2015 speak for themselves, because they're going to have it prominently in there. But the old junker helmets from back in the 60s, I'm only going to go down the track twice. Well, yeah, you're only able to die once, right?
Well, so there's some more questions popping up here. Let's see. Skip's Dark Hollow Garage says, can a car start in park only, nor other shift position? Park and neutral, right? That thing's called neutral safety switch. It's just to make sure you can't start it in drive or reverse.
Well, let me reformat.
And if that's the only way you wire it, that's as long as it doesn't start in any of the motions.
There we go.
I'm fine.
So in other words, it wouldn't have, if it didn't start in neutral, it still wouldn't be a problem as long as it doesn't start in a gear.
Right. Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, let's see.
Want to greet a few people that have slipped in here. Thumper's here.
Max Wedge Dick Dastardly is saying, oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, he's run into a first on battery voltage. But I will say, Max Wedge, the Wednesday night Tech Talk Lives, that's where you can hit up Dallas and Shane Polito on there.
Well, Max Wedge Dick Dastardly's asking, trans blanket is 2 years, right? And no one's going to crawl under your car and check the SFI date on the trans blanket. I'm going to tell you
How fast is it?
I have
How fast is the car?
Yes, Resnick, please let us know what your car's running.
If it's 639 and faster, I think that's the only time it's required, right?
Correct.
Well, so bear in mind, I know if you're running max wedge, you're running a 727. So if you're running a cast drum with your 727, you break the sprag, you can blow up a drum no matter what your car runs or doesn't run. So
once that engine flares, it sure will.
In my opinion, I would have one on a 727 no matter what if you don't have a billet drum.
Correct.
I seen one of those. Actually, I went down to look at Little River probably 5 years ago to give him a sanction, and there was a guy did a burnout in a Dodge, and he rode through the gears doing the burnout, and man, as soon as he hit through it in high gear, that drum came up through the floor, went up to the dash. But he was like, and it had no safety equipment on the whole car. It was painted with like a roller or a brush, right? And I mean, it was rough.
Levi's got a question here about a window net.
Okay. He says, so I run faster than 650. I believe NHRA requires me to have a window net. I have all other safety to run in the low fives except the net. I don't go that fast yet, but it does run faster than 650.
I want to say, I'm pretty certain that that's not required till 639 or faster.
I believe 639.
Yeah, 640 is like the magic cutoff. 639 is where it starts to get all kinds of techie with a lot of stuff.
Right.
And that's because at 639 you're running an equivalent of a 990 in the quarter mile, and you're looking at 135 miles an hour or so.
Sure.
But an eighth mile you're looking at 108 miles an hour, 110 miles an hour. It's not that fast. The whole window net idea is actually just there to keep your arms in case you roll the car.
Well, and what I'm looking at here in my book, it says window net meeting SFI spec 27.1 mandatory in any full-bodied car required by the rules to have a roll cage. Not a roll bar, a roll cage.
Oh, which is a 640.
Which is a 640.
So we've got Thumper saying, this is, I guess, just general advice, and this will be a good one for both of you guys. So what should I tech to with my fresh build? He's got a fresh build. I guess he's wanting guidance on just how do I evaluate my fresh build around tech when I'm doing my build.
Well, you should have an idea of what it's going to run, just a ballpark, and that's where you kind of start with. The reality is if it's never been down the track and you don't know what it runs, Deke's going to tech it probably for... I'm not going to speak for Deke, but I mean, normally what you see in historically is guys will tech it for something that's slower than 640. Once it starts getting over 640 and it starts running down to 639, then you go, hey, next time you come back, make sure you got this, and this.
And I might get surprised. There might be a bottle hidden somewhere, but you kind of know when you see a 639 car, right?
Here's a common one we get a lot of: drive shaft loops. Who's required to have them? Who should have them?
Slicks.
That's the magic thing.
The magic thing, slicks. If it's a street drag radial that has 2 grooves down it, that's a slick. Once you put it out on that sticky track, that becomes a slick. No matter how legal it is to drive it down the road, it's a compounded tire, and it will kick your drive shaft out.
So slicks or drag radials.
Correct.
Need drive shaft loops. And also, that's regardless of ET. Now, you also have an ET at which you have to have a drive shaft loop regardless of tire.
Yeah, I believe that is true.
If you have a hammer running 639, you have to have a drive shaft loop whether you have a slick or not.
Right.
But if you're going that quick, you probably have tires to do it. So,
sure.
So generally, slicks are the...
And the drive shaft loop is actually pretty simple as long as there's something that maintains the drive shaft from falling down. The whole purpose of it is if you break the front U joint and the car is moving forward, it'll become essentially a pole vault situation, right?
And then you're going to hate life after that.
Right. And so your $45 made-at-home driveshaft loop becomes a big savior of your whole entire chassis and drivetrain when it does break that front U-joint, right? And that's so the way that the driveshaft loop is set up is supposed to be, 4 to 6 inches from the tail shaft housing of the transmission, right?
What's that?
I think it's supposed to be 4 to 6 inches from the tail shaft housing of the transmission, and that way
it's within 6 inches of the center of the U-joint.
Oh, okay, all right. And then that's all it really is. It's just to keep the drive shaft from falling down and you pole vaulting the vehicle. It actually serves no purpose with the rear U-joint. It's just the front.
Well, I will say a rear U-joint, not necessarily trying to clutter this, but some cars, I've seen a rear U-joint break and that drive shaft just flail around like a mace.
Yep.
I have a friend that had aluminum interior, and he added a rear U-joint loop drive shaft loop when its rear drive shaft started smacking the interior carrying on in the car. So,
right.
But the front one is the critical one for safety.
That's the one that'll launch your car end over end.
Greg McDonald has a really good question here because seatbelts is on my list here too. That's probably the number one question I get are seatbelts. If your car has seat and shoulder belts on a front bench seat but no back seat, would it pass tech?
Yeah, you're driving in the front seat, right?
Why does it need a back seat?
Yeah, what's that got to do with anything?
Right. Now, I will say you
just can't have a
partition. If your batteries... So, Deke, please talk about when and why you would need a partition between the front and rear, like where the back seat used to be.
Oh, the bulkhead? You need a sealed bulkhead between the back seat and the trunk when you, A, put a fuel cell back there, or B, put a battery back there, or C, both. Because you don't want that stuff bouncing around and those liquids to come into the driver's compartment whatsoever. The acid will burn you, but you probably won't notice because the gasoline will have you on fire. That needs to be, yeah.
And I've got on your sheet, because that actually came up yesterday. Somebody had asked me, and it's actually pretty minimal what you have to do that. Is it 24 steel 032 aluminum, I believe, is what you make your partition out of?
Yeah.
So either one, and that'll have you covered for that.
Correct.
Here's another common one we get here. Skip says, I heard no more than 12 inches total of soft fuel line.
We've discussed that, and that's kind of our go-to number.
Yep.
It's not written in stone in this sanctioning book, but it is in the others. Yeah. Because I cross-reference stuff, and ET is ET.
Yeah, the reason why the 12 inches, I think, was a total was that you're looking at some of the older cars came with 6 inches just splicing the lines together when it came from the rear of the car to the front. And so that was the whole idea, was you had to have some to allow for flexibility of the car.
Right. And usually there was a small piece at the tank, about 3 inches, and usually about 4 or 5 inches at the inlet to the fuel pump. And all the factory stuff was pretty much hardline up to the carburetor. It might have had 2 pieces if it had an inline fuel filter, but that would be a wonderful time to put it in between the inlet of the fuel pump instead of the pressure side. But that's my personal opinion.
Bear in mind, these changes, if you make them to your car, it's going to be a safer street car also.
Right.
I mean, these things, they don't, you need them to pass tech, but it's not a waste. These will make your car safer to drive everywhere. Thumper has a good follow-up to that. Is braided fuel line acceptable?
Yeah, we like braided line.
And
it's hard to rub through a braided line.
Dastardly, do you have to roll over valve on fuel tank breather?
I think that's a
So I think
great
he's asking
idea.
me, you have to have, yeah.
It's not required yet, but after that thing in Indiana, it's probably going to be.
And there's a simple way to do this. A PCV valve will do that job.
It'll slow it down a lot. And your vent, and that's for your vent. I always run the vent into a curlicue, and it needs to go outside the floor. If it's in the trunk, it needs to go outside the floor of the trunk. So you're not venting into the trunk. You're venting outside the car. You follow me?
Well, too, remember, if you're upside down in the car, think about how your fuel cell is going to be when it's upside down.
Right.
Where's your gasoline going to go? So
Right.
when you see these vent lines that run down and back up, it's because they want the vent to be above the level of the tank when the car's upside down.
10-4. And we don't want anybody's car upside down.
Nope,
But like that guy in Indiana, it happens.
I thought WindowNet was for cars with Lexan, just Mopar Joe says.
No, not necessarily. Roll-up glass needs it too if you've got a cage.
Big Mike is asking how fast you have to go to require drive shaft loop. We'll just say that pretty much it's if your car has slicks or drag radials. Slicks or drag radials, you need a drive shaft loop.
I'm pretty certain that if there was a ET at where a drive shaft loop comes into play, it probably is around the 750 mark.
Yeah, that's probably
where,
right.
That's where the first real tech stuff starts to come into play.
It actually, I have it written down here. It should be on your sheet too, John. 859 and quicker using drag racing specific tires. But if you run quicker than 859 on a street tire, which I don't think that happens often, you wouldn't necessarily have to have it.
You'd have to be making some steam. You'd have to be making some serious power to do that on a street tire.
You'd have to have a set of steamrollers for sure.
Yeah.
Tony's staring down the barrel of $1,000 drive shaft. I think I'll spend a few extra bucks and build a drive shaft loop. If you can afford a $1,000 drive shaft, you can afford a drive shaft loop.
Yeah, that sounds like
Wow,
a
does it
fiber
come
piece.
$1,000? Does it come filled with nitrous?
Better come installed and everything.
Yeah.
And
Sounds
JB
like-
brings up a good point. He says, not being a pain, but all this is on the AHRA website. It is. And you know how many people I send to AHRA.com, AHRAonline.com/rulebook and still ask me the same questions? That's why we do this. It's all right there, AHRAonline.com. And if you'd rather read the rule book, I mean, Deke's made me a sheet with it by page. If you want to do that, that is awesome. But we're doing this live because we want as many people as possible to pass tech. We're giving you every opportunity to know these things. We have Dallas, we have Deke right here. You guys have a shortcut right to the head of the line.
Well,
to
and
make sure you can pass tech.
the idea is there's a lot of people that's coming from all over the country, not even our country. They might be coming from Canada, right? And we hate to see them get there and get tripped up on this stuff. The whole idea is not to send anybody away. You want them to run after they put in all this effort, all this time, got 500 subscribers, and did all the magic, and they get there and they got a rubber fuel line from the carburetor all the way back to the gas tank. It's make sure those things don't happen.
And it's a boat tank to boot, right?
Yeah, a boat gas tank.
I'm going to put this up from Just Mopar Joe. He has an example of tank venting here. Put this up.
Yeah, that's the easy way to do it with the braided stainless lines.
Yep,
And it goes down through the trunk floor.
correct. And then if you want some excitement, you can duct it into your header, but that's okay. That's for the burnout contest.
We
I'm
just
just kidding, guys.
We want to see it stay safe.
Yeah, Dizzy Izzy, don't listen to that last part.
Yeah.
So Andrew Nelson brings up a good point here. He says that the bulkhead in the back, that partition, is what kept the fire out of the Volvo when he wound up over the wall at 150 miles an hour on fire in February. So
Yeah, just a dumb piece of metal. That's a damn lifesaver. And even if it can't save you, it gets crumpled up, it's going to buy you time.
Yeah,
so that people can get to you and get you out.
I used to say when we first started doing the AHRA, these rules aren't here to be a pain in the butt. These rules are here because, I'll be honest with you, they're written in blood. Somebody had to die or really seriously get injured for this stuff to be in place. They're not doing it to be a pain. They're doing it because it's already happened, and they'd hate to see it happen again. They've taken the lessons learned from life and applied them to safety. There's certain things that really irk me that when they go overboard on them, like everyone already knows how I feel about the racing seatbelt rule, right? You have a 1970 Barracuda and it has the 1970 seatbelt in it. That sucker's good to go as long as that thing's a street car and you show up with the factory seatbelt for eternity.
Absolutely.
But the second you take it out and you put a race belt in it, that sucker's only good for a couple of years.
Right.
Yeah. And otherwise you're going home. And it's like I hate that kind of gray area, that overreaching, I believe is what they call it.
Right. Like the roll bar rule, the roll cage material rule. Military spec on mild steel is 114 thousandths. Oh, not the racing sanctioning body. It's 118 thousandths. So you have to go to 134 thousandths wall to have it thick enough.
Blake wants to know if it's okay to run aftermarket cup holders. Can't find anything about it.
Okay, like a cup like you wear at a baseball game, or one to hold your favorite beverage?
I'm thinking he's wanting one for like a Circle K Big Gulp or something.
Oh yeah, there. Okay, yeah.
That's probably
Slurpee.
the thing.
The Slurpee cup.
It is Blake, right? So he's probably going to be running down the track with some frou-frou Starbucks stuff, unicorn juice, going down the track.
I think they switched over to the Colorado beer. I saw that on their video.
So Bear Rose has sent me a picture here and is asking if this is an okay drive shaft loop. I'm going to put that up.
Which one's the top? I'm assuming the top is that big pointed
Does
deal.
It bolt through the floor?
I don't know what he's made that out of, but
I would say it's probably okay.
I can tell you the materials are 1/4 inch thick, 2 inch wide, mild steel. So if that meets that criteria, of course, aluminum ain't it, but you see what I mean? 1/4 inch by 2 wide.
Yeah, I don't know, Bear Rose. Let us know what that's made out of.
Because they're like, I think them things they about bust your butt. I mean, they're $28 or $9 on eBay for a correct one.
Well,
or you can order from Jegs for $90 and get it in 3 years.
Or you can, do like what was happening last year. There was a lot of guys that didn't know that they were required. They had one, and I want to say it was the Leighton Welding crew was like fabbing them up in 5 minutes out there in the pits.
Sure.
All right, let's see what else we have here. Hey, John Davey, I think this is meant to be backhanded. Will there be any cars fast enough that these rules apply?
Well, if the Nelsons come, there will be.
Hey, John, how fast is your car? Yeah, Joe beat me to it. Only if you bring yours. Let's see. Oh, Barrow says it's the transaxle mount for a VW Bug.
Huh. Made out of that good German steel. Volkswagen.
Guten Carbon.
Yeah.
Let's see. So Russell's asking 1.5-inch tubing should be okay. I'm assuming for a drive shaft loop. What if they do make a tubular drive shaft loop? What would the rule be
They
on
surely
that?
do. They do.
Okay.
So it needs to be I believe 125 wall tube by 1 inch OD, because that's what they put in the Pro Mods and the tube chassis cars.
Yeah, generally they're made out of chromoly and stuff. But whatever they can do to save weight.
And chromoly would be 083. But you get one of the Pro Mod cars, you're in pretty close proximity to that drive shaft.
Yeah, the loop is the least that you're worried about.
Fun stuff. I see mostly old parts and Rust Patrick is here. Mexican Spec is saying only 34 days. No, it's not 34 days. It's 33 days, 3 hours, and 29 minutes.
Not that you're counting, right?
Not that I'm counting. I'm the keeper of the orange paper. I got to know how many days it is.
Yeah, Punisher Lamont is asking, at what point do you need a kill switch? When you put that battery in the trunk.
Good question. So I got a question, and I'll put this up on the screen. It's from Two Hacks Jeff, who is considering battery relocation right now. And he is wanting to know. So he's going to run his positive battery. I'll put it like this. I'm going to put this on solar layout real quick.
Okay.
Just a second. He's going to run his positive battery cable there. Obviously, it's going to have to go from the trunk up to his solenoid, right?
Right.
He wants to know if he's to put his cutoff switch in line with the positive battery cable at his solenoid switch. So you see right now, short little cable. That cable is only a foot long. I told him yes, but you also are going to have several more feet of cable. Battery cable probably 15 feet long.
He's going to move it to the trunk?
That's what he says.
Yeah, he can run it, of course, run it in line. Between the solenoid. Once you come off the battery and go to the kill switch, once it leaves the kill switch, we don't care where it goes or what it does. Just as long as when the kill switch is hit, turned off, the car dies.
You know, the one I always wondered is, you could actually technically put that kill switch on either side of the battery, negative or positive, because once you remove the ground, the car's not going to run. I always wondered.
Unless, no, it will.
Why is that?
Alternator.
Because the alternator's still creating current because it's excited. So it'll keep feeding the ignition.
Oh, it may. Yeah, you're right. I guess, I was looking at that because there was guys talking about it the other day on the Lemons thing, but I guess if you're not running an alternator, then that would work on either side.
And they make those disconnect switches with an extra pair of terminals. If you want to run a standard stock style alternator, you run another cable back for your main feed.
Okay.
And you can do either the main feed on the alternator, or you can also do the field wire. Because when you shut that switch off, it kills the big battery cable. It also kills the feed to the alternator.
So Al Burns asks a question. He thought that it had to be on the negative side. Andrew Nelson says can't do it on the ground side because the car stays running.
Right.
Thumper says also the alternator field wire has to be behind the switch so it doesn't keep it running. Right.
Correct.
There you go. So, Jeff, when you watch this on replay, because there's a sentence that never gets said. I didn't know Jeff was here. Jeff has a big personality, right? Jeff, I hope you get to see this on replay. I hope that answers your questions. Yeah, NSB has run into that situation before on kill on the ground side. All right. Cool. Answering questions. Let's see here. Oh, there's another one that I had asked that we'll go ahead and get proactively until you guys have any more specific questions about holes in the firewall. Deke, you want to just touch on anything about holes in the firewall?
Well, I say pretty much keep it to a minimum. If you're going to run a wire through, don't run a 3-inch grommet for an 1/8-inch wire. And try to close up anything that's going to let oil, water, gasoline, anything like that through. We like to keep them as tight as possible.
Well, and the history behind that one was, I want to say, isn't that the zookeeper John Mulligan? Is that his name? Where he had the hole in the firewall and it had motor oil coming through there, but it was a top fuel motor had burned up, had blown up, had motor oil coming through there, and it created like a incinerator in the cockpit of that top fuel dragster and burned that guy to death before he even got out of the car, before it even stopped. It was just like a blowtorch.
The perfect mix of oil mist and that much air feeding it.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
And I think it was running like 200 miles an hour. But there's another thing that people don't understand: is a fuel car, they run so much nitromethane through them that the pan actually will fill up with nitro and oil, right? And that stuff just becomes essentially like a blowtorch. It'd be like acetylene and oxygen mixed at the same time. So,
and on your nitro and alky cars, the fuelers and funny cars both, Altereds, whatever, when you shut the fuel off, the fuel lever, they go faster
because it lean them out
for a second or two. Lean is fast, but it doesn't last long enough to burn a hole in the piston. But the car, when you shut that fuel valve off, it will pick up.
This is going to apply to few people, but we still NHRA parachute rules the same as AHRA's parachute rules.
Should be 150, 125 in the eighth, 150 in the quarter.
I don't think you're anywhere near that, Levi. So, I don't believe. I know you're turbocharged 5.3, but I don't think that thing's going to top into 125 miles an hour in the eighth.
All right, this is a real common one. We get asked this a lot, and this did create a little bit of headache for a couple people last year about wheel studs. Let's just get on wheel studs in general. And the most common time I see people have trouble passing tech with their wheel studs is when they've gone from a steel to an aluminum wheel, and now the stud is not long enough to give proper engagement because the aluminum wheel center is so much thicker than the stamped steel.
Yep.
But Deke, tell us what we need to see in the way of a wheel stud. What are you looking for when they roll up the tech?
All wheel studs must project through the wheel both front and rear when recessed aftermarket nuts are used. So I want to see
the wheel stud coming through the
outside. I want to see the wheel stud. But I mean, if you're running a stocker, but you put a little bit thicker wheel on it and trying to run the stock nuts, I'll have you put a wrench on it and take it off and show me how much thread engagement you have. Because you're going to have 100% of the diameter protrude into the threads.
I ran into this.
The width of the stud, 1/2-20, for example, you have to have a 1/2-inch engagement in that lug nut, minimum.
Yeah, I run into this a lot when like weld wheels. Weld wheels are like the worst ones. They got like a shanked lug nut that's, let's say, you might have 2 inches of lug nut. And then, the tech inspector will generally walk by and like, if they can't see the lug sticking out, oh man, it's not going to pass. Well, hold on, bro. I got about 2.5 inches of freaking engagement on this 1/2-inch stud.
And I do it the common sense way, because if you've got that much thread engagement, all that extra weight hanging out the end is not going to save you any more than anything. But I'm not afraid to have you go grab a 4-way and pull one off and show me. And I had a couple guys do that last year.
Buff's Garage asking about helmets. For those just getting here, helmets are pretty simple. If you're 765 or slower, you have the option to run a DOT, aka motorcycle helmet. If you're 764 or quicker, you need to have Snell 2015 or newer.
I knew a lot of guys that worked at the Bell Helmet Factory just 20 miles down the road from where I live. And Bell's big deal was if you drop that helmet on a sidewalk or concrete or an asphalt road one time, it needs replaced. So, you know, for something as tough as they are supposed to be, they are kind of fragile.
Hey, John Davey said he was legitimately asking. John Davey, there are 10,000 hashtag videos from last year alone, and our low ET award was 551. There's some quick cars there. We had really no choice but to think it was just kind of funny. Smoke Rich is saying, what's the story on long studs on front wheels? Because I will say we see longer wheel studs than ever needed on anything. I think it's almost like people like to see how much longer wheel stud they can run now.
I will reiterate the thread engagement. And if it's an open-ended lug nut, I can stick my pocket scale down in there and I can measure. You follow me?
Absolutely.
So there's ways of knowing things.
Well, Levi's advertising times. He's been 990 at 139 in the quarter. So there you go, man. You're 11 miles an hour away from a shoot.
Yep.
Slant Daily Garage is here. Glad you could make it, Shane. Tony says he's running open-ended lugs on 3-inch studs, but the length of the stud doesn't matter. It's the protrusion into the nut itself.
Right. When that 990 car, if it runs 639 or quicker, it'll have to have a sticker on.
Now that's turbocharged 5.3. I don't think it's one of them cars that top ends real hard, right? So 8th mile, it might not be freight trained like that.
Andrew Nelson says 1.33 times the thread diameter for the nut.
That's a common engineering number.
I don't know what that works out to, but if Andrew Nelson says it, I would be willing to bet it's right. So we'll look at that later.
That is not in my book, but I would be comfortable with that.
We got some really smart guys in the chat here, and he's one of them, and I just think that's really cool. LNA Automotive says, from what I'm reading, a lap belt is approved for cars up to 730s. No, thank you. I'm getting belts. I think that's a good idea.
Good idea.
I don't think that it's ever any reason to make fun of somebody for making a vehicle safer than it needs to be.
Yeah, no one's going to ever really give you a hard time for being too safe.
You're never going to climb out of a car with a broken rib and say, come on, man, you could have saved a little money on your cage. You might have had 3 broken ribs, but you just still live. Nobody's ever going to say that if you climb out of a wreck.
Exactly.
You know, the only time I ever got hurt on any of that stuff was I put a roll cage in my car. Just a local, I guess it'd be, you know, your local stock car racer guys live around your area. I have them put a roll cage in my car, and it's like, man, my car's way safe. And then you make it faster, and then they're like, hey, man, let's check your cage. And then that's when you find out your cage is junk. Nothing works right. It's not legal. And oh, okay, well, ignorance is bliss, right?
Right.
Dust Devil says and Joe has a good point here. He got a Snell 2020 helmet with Bluetooth for under $300 on Amazon, full face.
Does that Bluetooth interface with the Christmas tree? Asking for a friend.
Now, Dust Devil Brian just went with 3-inch studs all the way around because he likes his tires to stick out that far, and he likes his studs too also. Nothing wrong with that. Brian's Duster, for those of you who don't know, looks like a steamroller with a Plymouth body.
Nice.
Now, Andrew is mentioning something. Can't speak for this event, but AHRA, another sanctioning body, requires the studs to engage 3/4 of the hex. That's why they make the plastic caps that screw into the lug. And I have heard a little something about that too. I've always read the rule of thumb. You have to have the diameter of the stud as engagement in the lug.
Into the hex.
Right.
Not just the sleeve.
Right.
And the sleeve stops at the edge of the wheel, correct?
It should, yeah. It should be the same intersection, right?
Right. And I do not have that in my book here. Those numbers, the engaging into the hex.
Slant Daily is asking trans blanket. When would you be required to run one?
If your transmission is cold.
I will say this. So
$6.99 and quicker requires a blanket or shield.
I will say this. We're going to have next week on our live Friday. Tonight, what we're talking about is tech so that we don't have things go wrong. We're being proactive about not having things go wrong tonight. Next week, we're going to have some stories from right here in our community about racing accidents, things that have happened, why they happened, what was learned, and we're going to do those. It's going to be a more serious live, but the purpose is we don't want those things to happen to other people. So we're going to have on Andrew and Calvin Nelson to talk about their now infamous wreck that happened in February in Florida. We're going to have John Cope. He's going to talk about transmission explosions, how they happen, how to protect against them. We're going to have Blake Robinson. He's going to talk about nitrous bottle safety. That's going to be an eye-opening and interesting live, a little different than what we normally do, but we don't want anything learned from those things. If it can benefit this community, that's why we're doing that live and want to share it. So I think it'd be a good time to mention that. And Russell brings up a good point here. He said there's a lot the same and a lot different between dirt racing and drag racing. Dirt racing only requires 095 tubing in the cage. Drag racing needs heavier tubing. Well, the types of the top speeds and these type of things are different in the two cars too.
Yeah, it's the top speed is primarily the thing.
Right.
I mean, if you think about it, the dirt racing, every class of dirt race car is probably lighter than just about any of the stuff on the drag strip, with the exception of the street stock stuff.
Right.
Mexican Spec says Mopar Man 78. That's great. Are you going to race it? Tony's Hot Rod Garage has a good question here. He's going to be running 1-inch billet spacers on the rear wheels. Another sanctioning body's rules say it's legal. I can't find anything in the AHRA rules. What would be the deal with wheel spacers? It's a good question for both of you.
I wouldn't have, if it's okay with the NHRA, I would be fine with it with the proper studs and the proper nuts.
That's the big one, is it's billet. It's actually designed for this, right? Wheels are generally billet.
It's not the Walmart spacers.
Right. It's not the 1/4-inch thick spacer from Rock Auto or from Pet Boys,
exactly.
Right? Those are the ones that they didn't want you running, was like the 1/4-inch shim spacer, because your lug nut, well, the wheel doesn't engage on the drum completely. It has, all right. So on the drum, you have your where your axle has a flange on it. It's an indexing flange.
They call on the end of the axle, they call that the registry spud.
Well, and that's what centers the wheel, right?
Right.
And you can get them
got
off
a set
center.
of billet spacers,
It's going to have the same
They
thing.
might have that on it.
Right. Yep. A properly made spacer will work just like having the wheel, right? But the GP,
I never ever like seeing anybody trying to center the wheel with the studs and nuts. That's not the right way to do it.
And that's the way that a lot of wheels do, unfortunately, without a register.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Andrew Nelson says, if you have weld wheels with the correct lugs, the hex is extra long. The studs must engage 3/4 of the way into the hex. Of course, this is notwithstanding the AHRA rules, which is what we're discussing here. But I will say this, we're not real far apart on any of these things. There's variations between what people do, what manufacturers recommended, what sanctioning bodies do. The main thing is that you make an effort to make your car safe and that you comply with some reasonable standard. So there's a big difference between having 3/4 engagement and half, and having the diameter of the shank, or just having 1 or 2 threads of engagement, just barely on there. There's a big difference in those things.
Andrew Nelson saying that the NHRA stopped restriction on spacers 6 years ago. It must be hub-centric or lug-centric. So...
Dust Devil Brian is asking, he said maybe off topic, but is there a scale at Sikeston?
No.
Actually, there is a scale because the GRAs bring their scales. And if they do so again this year, which I hope they will, you'll be able to scale your car in their pits. They did that for anybody who wanted it last year. So that's our workaround there for scales. And we'll have scales there if we ever did something, a class that required weighing. Let's see here. Barrows says, manual transmission. I'm building my transmission tunnel and part of the floor out of 5/16 inch sheet steel. Man, does this qualify as a scatter shield? So he's trying to make
technically because it doesn't have an SFI certification on it. But
yeah, that doesn't work.
But in reality, is the car? Yeah, you could shoot the thing with a 44 and it probably won't put a hole in it.
Right. How fast is the car? How fast is it?
It's really heavy. How are you even bending that, Barrows? Using a rosebud torch like they build a ship with, and an anvil. I mean, that's crazy. Yeah, and Buff Del Campo has scales if he wants to bring them. I know the GRAs have scales, so we should have some scales there if people need to weigh their stuff. Yeah, Andrew's got the right attitude. He said it's not his sandbox; he just doesn't want anyone hurt. And we had a stellar safety record last year. I don't even know if anyone last year needed a Band-Aid. Nobody got hurt. That's what we want again. We can't do better than that.
Right. If we didn't have any sort of tech rules, what you'd have is like, okay, if you've ever been to an outlaw drag strip, walk around and look and see how many cars have 5 lug nuts on all wheels, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
Now, if like a Fox Mustang, they had 4. But just look and see how many have all the lug nuts are supposed to have on each wheel. And you will almost choke on your own tongue as you walk. It's up to the person at that point to determine their own safety. And I've seen cars roll by through the pits with 3 lug nuts on a 5-lug wheel.
Wow.
And they're going drag
racing. And seen many with 3 different sizes on one wheel.
I'll tell you another common one you'll see if you go to a track too. Walk around in the pits and take a look and see how many of them even have the top of their cages welded.
Yeah, no kidding.
I bet you there's not a race I've ever been to that I couldn't walk through the pits and find somebody who just left the top of the cage unwelded because they couldn't reach it. They didn't drop it down through the floor or use a curved rod or whatever. There's a bunch of ways to do it. They just didn't do it. And said, well, the tech inspector won't look up there. Well, this is not about where you think the tech inspector will look. This is about your life. So
I'll definitely feel.
Yeah, I got a message, by the way. The John Davy channel was created today just for this, so no surprise there.
I've
uh,
seen I've seen guys. I've seen TV cars that didn't have them welded all the way around, and those guys can afford the money.
this is cool. So Tall Garage says one exit from the track. There's a scale at the Love's truck stop. That's good info.
It depends what one exit is, because, see, the track is at exit 69, and if you're going northbound on 55, the next exit's like 75.
Yeah.
It's pretty far up there.
So Turbo Tom says my car has no lug nuts or bumpers. Turbo Tom,
Nice.
he is a 1916 Model T. And that's actually a great place to ask this question. We're going to have a 1916 Model T. We're going to have a 1931 Plymouth. The biggest thing I see with a lot of these vehicles that age is they don't have any kind of seat belts. But there's a way that you can put seat belts in them. You can at least even temporarily, if you don't want to hurt the originality of the car, but you want to make a pass down the track. I've never seen a 1916 Model T go down a track, and I really want to.
Well, and here's the thing. You don't have to really worry about the seatbelt on a 1916 Model T because it's probably going to be trapping around 35 miles an hour.
Yeah,
Right?
I don't know what the trap is, but I would say it's going to struggle to get there before the clock's time out.
Yeah.
So
NSB has asked
it.
a question. We had to install an engine diaper for another sanctioning body. What are the AHRA rules for them? I think it says in our rule book, like I think it's 639 is where the... Oh, what happened to Deke? He just disappeared.
Deke, you all right?
Yeah, I had to unplug my phone and get a adult beverage.
There you go.
My phone, I got a message saying my phone was getting hot.
Okay. Big
So,
Mike will he'll have seatbelts in his 31 Plymouth.
I believe that the AHRA requirement for a diaper, I think, is 639. I'm not 100% positive, but if you...
630, normally aspirated, 545 power adder.
And Dust Devil Brian brings up a great point that this is not just your safety. If you have a death wish and you want to drive a car that doesn't meet any kind of safety standards, you still have to care about the person in the lane next to you because these are our friends. I mean, we know everybody registering for this event. We know everybody going down that track. And I think we owe it to our friends to do the best we can. We're not asking for a lot. We're trying to get really ahead of this to help everybody meet tech. We have a great community that will help each other. If there's something that needs doing, the community will help. But let's try to nip it before we get there so that we're not taking up our friends' time to socialize and work on their cars to help you. That's the idea.
We're not trying to break anybody.
Right. So Turbo Tom
And
says,
I can understand where it might be a little overwhelming for someone that makes that's the only passes their car will ever make will be once a year. But we still we want everybody safe.
it's a great experience. If you think about it, just the insurance for this event is very expensive. And you think, well, gosh, you pay that insurance premium just for 2 days. I'm like, well, yeah, you do. It's a one-time thing. You have nothing to show for it after it's done, but you have to do it. So, we're doing the same thing, guys. We're spending money on things we hope to not need to.
Right. We hope to never pull the insurance premium policy out and try to make a claim on it, right?
Absolutely.
It's just one of those things that if the second you cheap out on it is the time that somebody takes their 1916 Model T and rolls it over on the track and smashes their arms and legs and crashes 2 other cars on the way out.
Guys, we're going to have $1,000 just in rental of water barriers that we hope no one ever hits. And I won't bat an eye writing that check because we don't want anybody to get hurt. So
Correct.
And we'll have nothing to show for it after that. Once those barriers get back on, they're drained and they're put back on the trucks. But you know what? If nobody got hurt, it was worth every penny.
Well, and it's
So
not even
we
just the
say this,
money
but we do
thing
it too.
either. We're going to have $1,000 in water barriers, and John and I are probably going to have 30 hours setting them up and draining them down.
And it's worth every hour. It's worth every penny. If nobody gets hurt, we don't want anybody to get hurt. That's the whole idea. So we go to the same. We have the same standards you guys do, and we're not asking anything of you. We don't do it ourselves.
Yeah, Andrew Nelson's down here saying, he says, you can't wish safety equipment into the car when the wreck starts.
Yeah. It's like joining NATO after the war started.
Yeah, can't do that. While you guys have any other questions, I told you I was going to have an announcement tonight. We're going to hit the 1 hour mark now, so we'll do it. I've been working on something. It's taken me a while, and I finally got all my stuff came through yesterday afternoon to announce it. But so Thursday, we'll have tech open from noon to 6. We're going to cruise to Lambert's. But when we get back from Lambert's at 9 p.m., I have this is going to be set up. Let me go to solo layout here. I want you guys to see this thing. We're going to have this set up on the spectator side. Those things that look like ants, those are cars.
Yeah, it's a portable drive-in.
That is a 45-foot movie screen.
Cool.
45-foot projection movie screen, and we're going to be showing Smokey and the Bandit. So we're going to have a movie, and concessions will be open, and the movie is free for the public. So anybody can come out and watch. Thursday's a free day. You know, you don't have to participate. You don't have to register or buy a ticket or anything to cruise to Lambert's, eat with us, car show at Lambert's, or the movie. Thursday is free for anyone and everyone. I mean, it's really cool if they get to meet and mingle with you guys and want to come back and buy a ticket and come back and watch some racing on Friday. That's great, but this is just giving back to you guys.
That's cool. Can you show Barbie too? Asking for a friend.
You'll get the license for it. I will tell you, doing this screen thing was not cheap. And the thing that took me so long, because I've been waiting a while to be able to announce this, is Hollywood politics, believe it or not. You have to get a public performance license. You have to know which company has the rights to do the licensing. You have to know what films are not on moratorium. So,
that's
for
the one
example,
that killed us.
Yeah, we were considered American Graffiti, but American Graffiti, this is the 50th anniversary. And they have pulled the licenses for all public performances this year. So that they can create more demand for next year. So anyway, we navigated all of that stuff. We got our license in place. I got it yesterday, and I have to have that as a green light to promote it. So anyway, that fell in place yesterday, and I said, okay, then we'll promote it today. So invite anybody you want to, and the concessions will be open. Bring your blankets, bring your lawn chairs. This is the 1977 original Smokey and the Bandit. So fun stuff.
Cool.
Andrew Nelson says, make sure the pit speed limit is enforced. My gosh, guys, I do not want to throw one of my friends out for doing stupid stuff in the pits. Don't do burnouts in the pits. Don't speed in the pits. Don't do stupid stuff in the pits. Come on.
Trans brake checks 2 feet from the other car in front of you.
No,
I've seen it.
You guys have had, you know, with this orange paper had 265 on it the first day I put it up. You've had 267 days to check that trans brake. You do not need to check it in the staging lanes.
Exactly.
And so LNA brings up, what day is the burnout competition? I'll go ahead and mention our itinerary, and this is a rough draft. Of course, things are subject to change, but basically what we're going to do is the gates will be open on Wednesday for people coming in long haulers to set up. So if you're coming from, you know, Timbuktu or wherever, because we have people coming from all over the country. So if you get there on Wednesday, you can set up your camper and all that. Power is very hard to come by. Don't count on having power. So if you need power, have a generator. But you can come in on Wednesday and set up. Thursday, tech is going to open at noon, and we'll have tech until 6 p.m. At 6 p.m., we'll cruise to Lambert's. I actually wouldn't be opposed at all to bumping that up a little bit, maybe to 5 o'clock to cruise to Lambert's. That just gives us more time to show and hang out over there. But 6 o'clock at the latest, we'll cruise to Lambert's, have our flash mob car show over there, and then 9 o'clock is screen time for the movie. And I really would hope everybody will be good neighbors for those watching the movies, and make sure you're in the pits, engine shut off before then. You know, because if you have a movie at a racetrack, that is kind of an unusual combination. But it would be very hard to hear if people are in there, you know, breaking in a cam at 9:30. That would be pretty rude.
Yeah, Smoke Wrench Garage.
If Ryan's shooting ducks.
Yeah, the popcorn machine. Smoke Wrench Garage is saying, I didn't see anything on the website about what's the cost to arrive at the track on Thursday. A big fat goose egg.
Yeah, there's no cost. There's no cost. I mean, you're already registered. You have to register at nonamenationals.com. I can't just do cash there on the spot. I mean, you could pull off on the side of the road and register outside the gate on your phone if you wanted to. But we have had people do that. But we want people to be pre-registered. We want them to get in the book. If you are registered by Labor Day, I'll get you back your same number, your same car number you had last year. Please do that if you want your number back, because after that it becomes a lot harder to do. I gotta get that administratively done ahead of time. But Thursday itself is a free day for everybody. So if you're the person who just lives in Sikeston and you just think it's cool and want to hang out with the YouTubers and cruise and go to Lambert's and watch the movie and all, you can do all of that, no ticket, nothing. You can just come do it. Gates open on Thursday. I should have them open by 7 a.m. every day. We did last year.
Yeah, but see, Thursday is just a setup day.
Yeah.
Okay, there's nothing spectacular happening until the evening, right?
There is no test and tune or racing.
Nothing, no cars down the track.
No, we're going to block the track off. If people won't honor that, we'll block it off, because we can't be having that. Because we're going to have people setting up in the shutdown areas. We're going to have people working up at the trap areas, on the walls, even people you can't see. So we can't have anybody going down the track on Thursday. But anyway, that's Thursday. And then Friday morning at 9 a.m., we're going to have the group photo. So let's be ready to get in line for the group photo Friday morning, 9 a.m. There were some people jumping the line and just doing whatever they wanted. I don't know if it was to get up front. I don't know if it's they weren't listening, but we're going to make sure that we have the proper order for group photo. And then we get everybody off the track. We're going to get the track cleaned up and get it hot. Get it prepped, get it hot, be ready for racing.
Another thing, I hate to say this, but if the registrants there could police the other people verifying they are registrants to come out on the track for the group photo, that would be ideal.
We'll make sure. We're going to have a bouncer on the top end this year.
Well, the one thing that really kind of rubbed me raw last year was some dude drove his motorhome out there, which is all well and cool, right? But then he parked the thing like in the middle of the freaking field and blocking out 2 or 3 cars behind him.
So I'm going to make that right with the folks that got blocked out by the motorhome. Don't worry about that this year. But what I'll say is we want to be good neighbors and everything. We don't know exactly how we'll line up for the photo, but I'm trying to spread it around and get more people an opportunity to be up front and so forth.
Can we come up with a master list of entrants?
Yeah, we're going to have we have a list. It's right here. Thing is that we have people who don't register until the last freaking minute. And then we have people who register who are just, I already know I don't know why they even registered, because they weren't going to show up when they registered. So between that, I can't.
My issue is the tech card.
Yeah, well, we'll have that. We'll have that for you. I'll get you what I have that day, real time. But as far as making a list ahead of time, it wouldn't be valuable, wouldn't be accurate.
Am I going to have the tech cards?
You'll have the tech cards.
And I can have a copy. I can have a copy of the list where I can check them off and double check and make sure they're entrants.
Absolutely. You'll have a list with the car numbers.
because it was kind of a cluster last year with the tech cards. Some guys came up there, well, I don't have a tech card. Well, I didn't have any. They were supposed to get them at the gate.
Hey, Thumper, we're not even talking about you. No, we're not talking about you. I want you to show up. I hope so. Kim's asking about drones. One thing I'll say about drones, we cannot have drones flying over the track during the racing. Cannot. That's a huge safety problem.
Yeah, say that drone stops running right in the middle of the track.
So we got some more tech questions. But anyway, we wanted to give you those administrative updates. We're going to be hot for racing, hopefully by 10 a.m. on Friday. Hopefully.
That's fingers crossed. Last year, the photo took well over an hour to get set up. But see, everybody should be a little bit more familiar with it this go round.
Yeah. Well, we're worked on the administrative things to make them better, like having tech open on Thursday. So we've tried to fine tune that stuff and help it out a little bit. But yeah, we're going to be open for test and tune Friday morning. That's the first thing. Just get in the lanes and make passes if you want to. Okay. And then the bracket will start a little bit later. And by 6 p.m., we're going to shut down racing on the track because by 7 p.m., we're going to have Burnout competition under the lights Friday night. And it promises to be bigger and wilder this year than last. So that'll be 7, and I just got it penciled in until 10 o'clock, but it is what it is because there is no curfew out there. Saturday morning, we want the track to be hot by 8 a.m. And Saturday, we're going to run our heads up instant green 28-10-5, and we'll try to wrap by dinner time, maybe 4 or 5 o'clock on Saturday. So if those of you that have a reasonable drive back, if you choose to want to make it, can do so. And of course, if you want to stay Saturday night and take off Sunday to travel home, you can do that as well, whatever you choose.
Do you see that Don English is asking a question? A trunk-mounted gas tank, does it need bolted fast or can it be strapped? Mine sits inside the spare tire well.
Okay.
Generally, the strapped ones is a cell, and it's designed to be strapped.
1/8 by 1-inch straps is what it requires for a trunk-mounted cell.
Now, I think his is a gas tank. It's
Pardon?
strapped. I believe his is a gas tank, and he's wanting to know: does it need to be bolted down or can it be strapped?
It can be strapped.
I think Mexican Spec is laughing about some kind of, something Ari says or does or something. No, Ari's welcome. I don't know that he'll be there. I don't think he has any plans to be there, but he's certainly welcome. Thumper is asking, how late can we sign up for the 28-10-5?
You can do it on the spot, can't you?
You can do it on the spot. It's a $100 buy-in, and it would be nice to know ahead of time. And if you tell me ahead of time, it'll be nice to reserve your spot and pencil you in. But yeah, you can sign up on the spot. It's a 16-car field. It's a $100 buy-in, $1,500 to win, $500 to runner up.
And I think I might just jump in that sucker. I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm running a 28 by 10. So now all you whining, crying dudes that used to say you got a 30 by 9, now I'm gonna do it on a 28 by 10, and I'm gonna do it with an NA car. I'm hoping that I don't go out first round.
I see. Ari got hit with a drone. Well, Ari, what can I say? If you've been hit by another car in traffic, do you still get your car and drive? Yeah, things happen. But,
Twisted Mopar Garage. Will there be a track photographer there? Yeah, there's gonna be like 200 of them.
Yeah, we get good photography. We'll see. We'll see.
Usually at the most inopportune times.
I will say, as far as taking pictures, we have, one thing I talked with the track management there at Jeffers a little bit about this. Because we're all YouTubers, there is a certain temptation to want to get in places to get the best possible shots and videos, photos, right? And we understand that. But there's still places you really shouldn't be. Like you shouldn't be on the other side of the fence. You shouldn't be close to the wall on the other side of the wall and close to the track on the top end. And you shouldn't be, where the car can hit you coming out of the water. If it gets out of hand with too many people on the starting line, that'll be a thing. That said, you guys were really good last year. We probably only had to say 1 or 2 times, hey guys, just watch out, you're getting a little too close. And that's just people so engrossed in what they're watching. That happens. We get that. But you guys were really good about that last year. But we want it to be safe. All this crap you see at these outlaw tracks with 50 people on the starting line screaming and carrying on, that is not going to happen here.
Yeah, but the good thing is at Jeffers, you can literally sit on a grandstand at the starting line. That's what's cool about it. Just Mopar Joe's asking that, well, I would turn off the electronics in the bracket race. I don't know what he's referring to. Are we having, maybe in my car? I don't have electronics in my stuff. Is all foot brake.
Yeah, no delay boxes.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, it's a no box deal. I mean, if you don't want to drive your car, why come to an event about driving cars?
If you're asking about my car, I don't have any electronics except for EFI. That's it. The car runs on electronic fuel injection. I don't have any goofy stuff. The only thing I have is a foot brake car, and I have it on a 2-step.
Only for staging.
Right, and it's a 2-step that runs off my brake pedal, so it's not even a button or anything. I don't even have a trans brake.
Anybody have any other specific tech questions? We've got Deke here, we've got Dallas here, so you've gone to the top of the line here. If you have any questions, it's a good time to ask them. This is a good one right here. Chris 103 Customs is asking. We touched on burnout car rules in general. So what would be some of the things that are expected for tech for burnout cars, if that's all they're doing?
Wow.
Needs to be roadworthy?
Definitely roadworthy.
You have to have a helmet.
That'll work. Helmet. All lug nuts. Just as if you were going on the track for that type of thing.
And then I think the only other thing we said last year was like no people hanging outside the cars, right? So you got to remain inside the car.
Yeah, this year too, I'm going to rope back a few feet off of the barriers just to make sure that really excited filming people don't lean over the barriers to get the best shots. I understand people wanting to do that. We're all YouTubers. We all like to film, but we don't want anybody getting hurt. Still going to have the best seat in the house. Still going to have the best angle to watch a burnout competition anywhere. But we just want to make sure we don't have people hanging over those barriers.
Andrew Nelson saying that he's super happy to hear I'm bringing my car. I'm planning on bringing it. I think it's going to be my last hurrah for the thing. Then I'm just going to sell it afterwards, I believe. Hopefully I don't.
Or if somebody brings a big pile of cash,
I'll sell it at the event.
Nothing sells like an ET slip.
Yeah. And I'm kind of debating on whether or not to pull the travel limiters off the front because, man, I put them on there because the thing would do these crazy, like, 4-foot wheel stands.
Who wants to see wheel stands on a T-Bird? Let us know in the chat. Rabbit Transit J is asking, not sure if you mentioned it or not, small crack in the windshield not in driver's view. I have actually something good to show them. And Deke, I sent this to Deke earlier this week. Got to find it here. So another participant here has a couple little spots like this, the kind of chips that you can get from a truck slinging a gravel on you, like that.
Right.
The thing is, if they're not right in the driver's view, you can epoxy them to keep them from spreading, and that would be satisfactory for something like that. But if you got a spider web going across, you need to change the windshield anyway.
That is correct.
Yeah. Man, NSB Custom Cars is saying, Dallas, you taking a call out? I don't know. It depends how many passes I'm going to get on the car. I know that they got that Linko Dart. That didn't run about the same thing? About 640s?
That's what I was going to say. I think that Dart and your T-Bird run really close.
That would be a classic confrontation.
Well, that would be one of those ideal situations for one of those best 2 out of 3s, wouldn't you agree, Deke?
Oh, that'd be awesome, yeah.
Yeah. Best 2 out of 3 pro tree.
Yeah, pro tree or instant green, either one.
Andrew Nelson says, I may not be your biggest fan, but I'm sure I'm in the top 10. Twisted Mopar Garage asks, mounting of GoPro cameras and such. Don't think the suction cups are legal in AHRA. He's talking about exterior mounting, like on the body. That's a good question, Deke. What would you want to see for how they mount these cameras on the body so they don't come off and get on the track?
I think you need some type of clamp, whether it be for a door handle, a fender lip, preferably a front fender lip, but you know what I mean? A drip rail, things of that nature. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the suction cups either.
So Big Mike's 31 Plymouth probably has a flat glass windshield that probably isn't even safety glass with a bullet hole that's been there for probably 50 years or more. Are we going to worry about that?
How fast is it?
It's a 31 Plymouth.
I'll tell you what.
I'm not
if this was me, I know how I would do this tech. I'd go get a roll of duct tape and I'd put it right over that bullet hole and just drive it right past. Take it into tech for Deke, and he even asked, "What's going on here?" Oh, that's where I just put a piece of tape.
You got some of these things. I mean, we don't want to.
Look at the Holy Goat went through there last year. Didn't even have glass in the car.
Didn't have
right.
Wasn't broken.
But there was nothing to break and fall in on him either.
Right, or impairs the view, right? So.
Well, and I've seen a 31 Plymouth with a 426 and 2 4s on it too. Yeah. So some of those can run pretty fast.
Do remember, we're not trying to do any of this to stifle anyone's creativity or anything like that. So there's a lot of common sense will be used with this tech too.
Yeah, I think it's virtually, when Deke did it last year, that's a lot of people were, I mean, one, we didn't have a good handle on tech. It was the first event, right? So we didn't quite have that understanding of what we were going to need to do. And it ended up being essentially a tailored tech of your car on a case-by-case basis, right?
It about had to be because most of these guys had never been down a track.
Right, and you got their builds for specific reasons, and then we're trying to fit them into a drag race, which has pretty much girdered rules, right?
Right.
And we're trying to compromise to make it work for everyone, because your creativity, we didn't want to stifle the creativity, or we didn't want to stifle your audience, right? The idea was to maintain the vehicle as much as possible as what it was on the channel without going overboard, but yet still make it safe enough where you didn't catch on fire.
Exactly. And like the windshield crack thing, whatever state you live in, if you had to have it inspected for the state inspection, they're going to say you need to replace the windshield, even for a rock chip from a 18-wheeler. So, but we could give a little leeway, especially if it's not in the driver's vision. But if it goes all the way from the top all the way to the bottom, probably not.
Cave Dave is saying, don't have so many rules. People can't have fun. It's not a party unless somebody gets hurt. No, we had a great party last year. No one got hurt. We proved that's not true.
Yeah, the only thing that got hurt there last year was some feelings. Oh, and Jezebel's output shaft.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That was beyond hurt.
Jason was asking, and Jed had a great time, and Jed was one of the first 10 people to sign up this year, so obviously had a good time once come back. Jason's Garage asks, are there showers to track? Yes, there are. However, I will tell you, they said to please bring your own shower supplies. Bring your own towels and toiletries and soap and that kind of stuff.
And rubber ducky.
Yeah, they provide the water and the shower room and stuff, but you need to provide whatever it is you need.
You walking out of there with like matted toilet paper because that's all you got. That's how I picture people drying off. I didn't bring a towel. Whole roll of toilet paper.
Joe says they don't have inspection stickers in Arkansas. Well, good for you, man. Thanks for rubbing it in.
Oh, and
we do.
Outfits Garage here is saying, yeah, and Big Block 402, poor old Candy Cane's short block fell out the bottom last year too. I forgot about that one. And you know what's
The
funny
wrist
is,
pin spin.
yeah, well, and ironically, this year we have some parts and pieces from leftover motor as some trophies.
Yes.
Oh,
So,
nice.
Yeah.
So the top of the worst oil down trophy is a connecting rod and piston out of that 402 from Candy Cane, signed by Stephen Myrick. So if you win the worst oil down, we don't want you to, but if you do, he is passing his worst oil down on to you. And if you do, I hope you will donate a part of your worst oil down so it can be part of the 2024 trophy. Thumper, that comment took about 1 minute off the end of my life. Thumper says, towels are useless to me. The sweat just gets replaced by water for a few minutes. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Deodorant mandatory.
Yeah, well, Thumper is a Pontiac guy, and I grew up in Central Illinois. We had our local Pontiac guy, which his name was we called him Toonie. Well, that's what everybody called him, was Toonie, and I already picture Thumper the sweaty fat guy as Toonie 2.0, but yeah, Toonie was a good dude. He died in 2011.
LNA, if you have a question about your windshield, here's the best thing to do. Send me some pictures of the windshield. I'll get them to Deke. Okay? We really want to minimize surprises like this. So send me some pictures of your glass, and we'll get them to Deke, and we'll see what we can do, okay? Auto Salvage Outlaw says a lot of windshields are on back order for old stuff. It's understandable. One-Eyed Cat has a good question for people who need to retrofit seatbelts. I need to put lap belts in my Valiant. Is there any spec on how they should be bolted? That's a 62 Valiant that never had them.
Yeah, well, they can't. I want to say it's the same as a drag race belt, isn't it? In direction of pull.
Correct. It should be basically. It should cross your lap on a 45 degree. Between the seat back and the seat bottom. So if you got if the rear bolts for the seat are far enough back, but you need to make the bolts bigger.
And generally use a big fender washer on the bolts that go through the floor, right?
Correct.
So,
correct.
On the pull side. I guess I should say that. On the pull side.
Correct. On the pull side, and then the belt should intersect your lap on a 45.
Yeah, you really don't want to just find the hole that's randomly there and say, hey, I can just stick it here, because that angle the belt is in does matter.
Right.
If you're in a collision.
Some of the cars, the seat rails, the rearmost bolt is in a pretty good position to mount it there, but with bigger bolts than 5/16.
Procedure, assuming I have a lap. Oh my goodness. So I'm going to reiterate something. I try to do this quarterly because some people come and go. So Thursday, we've added something fun for you guys. After the cruise at Lambert's at 9 p.m., we're going to have a 45-foot screen. This screen right here. And those are cars.
It's a portable drive-in movie theater.
Yeah, we're going to have that screen on the spectator side, and we're going to be showing Smokey and the Bandit, 1977 original. And the concessions will be open. So we're going to have a bona fide movie. You can set up on the lawn chairs and blankets and such, and bring the family. Smokey and the Bandit rated PG. There's parents' guides out there on it because it's been around a long time. But most of you guys have seen it. We thought it would be good movie for this event. So
yeah,
it's free for the public. Thursday is a non-ticketed day, so there's no cost for admission. You can come, you can cruise to Lambert's. Obviously, you got to cover your food, but you can cruise, you can get in the car show, you can come to Smokey and the Bandit, all of that. and there's no cost for any of that stuff. So,
But you are obligated to buy an AHRA shirt that night because I'm going to be selling them over on the stage.
well, I will tell you that.
All right, you're not obligated.
No
You can watch the free
admission.
movie.
No cost for admission, but Dallas is going to be having shirts for sale, and we'll have No Name National shirts for sale too. And get them early because I don't want to get a massive surplus of shirts so that we can change designs. So if you want to get a shirt, grab it. We'll have shirts for sale on Thursday and Friday, Saturday as supplies last, etc.
Cave Dave, yes, that's correct. It's on Thursday.
It is. It's on Thursday. Joe says Smokey will be the only Pontiac that outruns anyone. You know, you guys might not guess this, but I bet you just Mopar Joe, he might make me laugh more than any other YouTuber. And you might not think it from his videos, but he's a funny dude. Oh, yeah, we've already got feedback from Mexican Spec about that. Yeah, we'll have a lot of Pontiacs there this year.
Yeah, that's good.
Yes, if you guys have shirts, you know, Dizzy's going to have shirts, Auto Salvage Outlaw's going. You're welcome to sell your shirts at the event. Just, you know, sell them in your pits, whatever. You're welcome to. Oh, and as far as shirts go, so during the day, Ron Ward likes to have contests, giveaways for people like spectators in the stands, and we had a lot of fun with that last year. Just giveaways and such. So,
This is a good question.
If you want Ron to give away one of your channel shirts, bring it up to the tower.
Yeah, and it's good for your YouTube channel to get a little lip service on the mic.
Oh, last year, I tell you what, we made such a big impression. Well, first off, before I get on that, Don English is saying, how's the audio transmitted for the movie? Is it via radio?
Speaker system there.
Okay. What I was going to say is, last year we made such a big impression on the people in the spectator side, and everybody was participating, and the track personnel, by giving away T-shirts that people had, just like stockpiles of T-shirts here, give them away, and they continued doing that for weeks afterwards. The track did, because they had so much fun with just giving them away. They liked how we were just randomly making stuff up. And if you remember, me and Ron Ward, we would say it on the microphone, but you wouldn't have any idea what we were doing in the tower. We would randomly just pick something, right? And I mean like random lotto. Just pick something out of your mind, and then bang, and it would happen. And they were giving away shirts. If you have like a $2 bill, come up to the tower, you got a free T-shirt, right? And it was working out really well, and people kept doing that for the remainder of the year. And matter of fact, that was one of the reasons why Barkley Schmidt is come back, and he's going to be essentially the race director for the event for on the AHRA side. And that because I've been so hands off all year, because I've just had my life filled with crap. So
yeah, Barkley's going to be there. He's going to help keep things running smooth, just like last year. There has been some personnel changes at Jeffers that came with the sanctioning change and that kind of stuff, but we still are going to have a lot of familiar faces there to make sure everything runs well. That's really important. And of course, we're going to have Deke doing tech again. We're going to have Ron Ward in the tower again. We're going to have Barkley there again. Dallas and I will be there. So everything should run really well. I'm looking forward to it. So, and of course,
we had a pretty good crew. Everybody worked together. We had a good crew. Everybody worked together pretty well.
Yeah, Ron Ward was commenting. He says, man, that event, nobody complained. He said that was just, nobody complained. He was in the tower, and nobody came up there to complain. That's unusual, because there's a lot of races where, like bracket racing, that kind of thing, well, some races you'll have people come up in the tower and complain about things, but not there. It was great.
Yes, Ron English. Barkley is back. He's going to be back. Last year he was essentially working with the track. He was the track, and he was the manager at the track, and he had so much fun at the event last year. I remember he turned to me we were doing the Burnout contest, and he says, "This is the most fun I've had at a drag strip in probably 4 or 5 years," and that means a lot when it's coming from somebody who's at the track every weekend running a track. Right? And if you didn't know, Barkley he is one of the racers from the St. Louis area that literally goes to a track every weekend. And he's racing. If he's not running that track, he's racing that weekend he's off. And he really loved the event. He really liked the crowd. He liked the people. He was excited that you guys were like really into this, and it made him fall in love again with the sport that he loved to begin with. So,
one thing I'll say too is that we really want the staff there to know they're appreciated. We want them to want to come back to this event, and like last year, I gave all the staff working that a No Name National shirt to have a souvenir and to be able to remember that event. It was fun. We want them to come back. We want to pay them right. We want to give them good working conditions. Also, at the Burnout competition, you don't need all the track staff running the water box. You don't need the track staff, on the starting line. You don't need all that. So they got to come up and watch Burnout competition.
That's where it got to be really fun for those guys.
Running the gate last year, Angie, she said, in all the years I've worked here, I have never gotten to just be a spectator. And she said, I got to do that for the Burnout competition. She said, I've never had more fun than that here. And to me, that's great because we'd like for them to be able to do that. So we want the staff to be able to do things like that and enjoy it. So
JB said, I left my monkey bike with him. I give him my monkey bike for what, 3-4 months? He had it. He said he didn't even know who I was when I was trying to talk to him. And it was like, there was a lot of people that were doing that. But hey, Dallas, how's it going? And a lot of them see me on YouTube. And I'll be honest with you, I was going 100 miles an hour from freaking Tuesday of that week all the way through Tuesday of the following week. And, I didn't really know what's what or what was up or how many days we had left. I was just trying to make it through. When John and I got done, Jeffers Motorsports Park got their freaking free payday out of Dallas Brown.
Yeah.
They ran me hard.
But
John and I both were so dehydrated that our lips were split and cracking and bleeding all over our faces, and I had blisters all over my head. It was a rough weekend.
One thing I'll mention, we're going to have drivers meetings before the Burnout, drivers meetings before the bracket. That will be the general drivers meeting. We encourage everybody to be there. We'll just cover all of the basic stuff. But we're going to have a drivers meeting for the Burnout competition and a drivers meeting for the 28-10-5 heads-up race.
And specifically. And the 28-10-5 is where you bring your money, because that's where you ante in, right? Because it's cashola.
So some just general things we'll talk about that we just want to make sure we've got in the rules, like the Burnout competition is going to have a commitment line. You can't break traction before this commitment line, right? We don't want anybody boiling the hides outside the box with the barriers, right? We want to cover all that kind of stuff. Can't be under the influence of anything when you're racing. You guys know that. It's in the rule book. Doesn't matter if you have a card or what. Doesn't matter. We want to make sure that we're going to have an air horn there. If we hit the air horn in the Burnout competition, shut it down. And that's just because somebody can have something that they don't know about. Like something break and fly out, we don't know about it. So we're going to have an air horn in case we need to shut somebody down for Burnout competition.
Or in case we see Dizzy Izzy get near his car. We are sounding the air horn, right?
We're giving Dizzy a hard time, but Dizzy put on quite a show.
He did. He gave it hell. And what really surprised me was he was looking a completely different direction he was going and still doing okay.
But we're going to have drivers meetings that are specific to 28-10-5 and Burnout competition. But the one before the bracket is the general drivers meeting, where we're trying to get everything in there, basic stuff. And it will also just some administrative things about making sure we leave the track cleaner than we found it, making sure you clean up after your dogs, all that kind of good stuff. Because we really want to make a good impression on this track. We want to be courteous to the staff. We want to leave it absolutely litter-free, nothing broken. That's what we want. So we'll cover all that kind of good stuff. Raining Slant 6 with a chance of cannonballs. One of my favorite usernames on all of YouTube is asking, how many folks have hit the 500 mark? We've had 24 channels get their 500 subs, and we have 13 still in the hunt. And he's asking about the Holy Goat. Well, you'd have to ask Dalton if it made any noises going down the track.
It didn't whistle any tunes, but it did sound like a screen going down the track.
JB says definitely getting into the Burnout this year. Well, excellent. Excellent. We've allowed a little more time. We've allowed an extra hour for the Burnout competition this year. I've got a few more water barriers coming this year.
Well, JB, didn't they get?
They
got their 2.8 with the blower on it this year, right? In the S10 or the Blazer. Yeah, so it should do really good in the Burnout competition, actually.
And that thing could win it all. You never know.
That would be a surprise. That would be good.
We've got some heavy hitters signed up for Burnout competition, too. Busted Radio Garage is going to be in it. Square Body Chad is coming back to it. William is going to be defending his championship from last year. So it's going to take something to win that Burnout competition. So sign up, come out, have fun. You don't have to be in it to blow your car up and turn it in two to win that thing. If you want to just come out, put on a show, and head back out, you can do that. You don't have to enter it to win it. It doesn't cost you anything extra to enter it. But I expect it to be wild.
Let's see. NSB Custom Cars is saying, might want to remind everyone to drain the antifreeze. We have already, but we will say it again because some people come and go. Make sure you drain your antifreeze before you come up there so you don't have to do it at the track. If you do it at the track, though, there is a barrier or a container to put the stuff in. But preferably get it drained before you come to the track. Tall Garage is saying fire jacket for turbo cars, right? I believe it's any power adder, and you automatically have a fire jacket requirement.
And how fast?
Kim,
how fast is it?
Yes, Tall Garage. You have an ET for that? Kim says they're doing a monkey bike burnout thing in this year. You can enter anything in the burnout competition. As long as it doesn't have metal tank treads, you can enter it in the burnout competition.
The 735 and quicker is a single layer jacket. 639 and quicker is the thicker, the 5-layer jacket and gloves.
Excellent. Yeah, JB's saying sparks flying, rims hit the ground. I wouldn't doubt it, but we do want to try to take care of the track as much as we reasonably can.
That's the one thing I ask is not sit in one spot. Don't sit in one spot.
I'm going to try to air horn, anybody who has a tire come off. But we're gonna try to have a lot of fun with that. Last year, I remember. You know what? It's actually on my list to call the minor fire department and let them know when we're going to be doing that, so that they don't think that there's a massive forest fire by the interstate. Because William had smoke. You could probably see William's burnout for 10 miles. I'm really not even exaggerating in the least. I know the neighborhood behind the track came out of their houses through the woods to watch.
Yeah. Hey, so Roy Boy is asking a question down there. Says, what about the Texas boys? Duddy and the Dodge Westburg are going to race again this year? Are they registered?
Duddy's registered. Nose hasn't come through, but I don't know. I don't know for sure if they will or not. So just ask them. Ask them. That's the best thing.
That's a good thing about Jeffers, though. It's like literally like 6 hours from Texas.
Dizzy wants to do a live there every day. Sounds great.
We haven't really discussed it. Are we doing the monkey bikes?
Yeah. The monkey bikes are a go.
I will say, just in general, look for some changes to the classes a little bit next year. Nothing crazy and radical. Just remember, the last thing you want to do is take something successful and popular and people like and just change it, right? But look for little changes for next year.
I wouldn't mind see if I could get a small group of match races together. Best 2 out of 3. Right?
Slimo is asking a good question here. Are fuzzy dice hanging from the mirror legal? Deke, what say you about things hanging from the mirror?
I don't have a problem with that. Unless they're a foot across and you can't see around them.
They're legal in the burnout contest.
Definitely legal in the burnout contest.
Yeah, if you don't have them in the burnout contest, that's 5 points off already.
Thumper asks a great question here. How many dead hookers are allowed in the trunk? Asking for a friend.
Well, hopefully you don't have your fuel cell in the trunk. You can
I
get more dead hookers in there.
How much do they weigh? Because I'm saying you should be limited to 500 pounds worth. Okay, so
choose wisely.
Yeah, exactly.
Bracket race Friday. Yes.
Yeah. Bracket race on Friday. And do remember, Stoker Inch Garage, there are some significant people on this Mopar Joe in that bracket race.
Well, also, bracket race on Friday, and immediately there following is your burnout contest.
Right, so we're going to have an hour of setup time between the end of the bracket and burnout competition under the lights.
Right. So I'm gonna run my car in the bracket as well. If I can, I need to probably register instead of just beating around the bush on this whole thing.
I will say, folks, as far as registration goes, we're always happy to have you, and we know that you can't always know, when you can make the event and so forth and so on. We understand that, and we're happy for every single one. If you sign up the day of the event, I'm happy you're there. But when you sign up early, it helps us because we have to make a budget for the event. Well, obviously, we've already made it this year, but if I had something that would be really helpful to me for making a budget for the event for the year, it would be if I were to say have 150 channels registered by Memorial Day next year. That would be fan-freaking-tastic because that helps me project, because we're on the hook for a lot of money December 31st. We make all these commitments. So it will be helpful for us to know. It's not like we start at zero on event day and then count on the gate covering everything. That absolutely does not work.
Okay, so 6% recycle is saying, what's the rules on a unibody car welded onto a unibody 4x4 SUV chassis?
Right.
What do they call them? A T-RAR? Terrar? I don't think there's any rules saying that you can't do that as long as everything's hooked up and functional.
And how fast is it? It probably doesn't have a cage in it or a roll bar.
I wonder if we're talking about a real AMC Eagle. Because
Oh boy.
this.
So 6% recycle. Tell Deke a little bit about what you have. It's called the Chambler, Cherokee, and Rambler.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, interesting could describe a lot of things at that event. New Guys Guitar, if you would please give me a call tomorrow. I'd like to get a hold of you.
It'd be nice to see some pictures ahead of time.
Yes. Oh, and 6%. Send me some pictures of anything specifically you have questions about, like where you joined anything or structural. I'll get them to Deke. What was I going to say? Yeah, it's an AMC Rambler body welded onto a 2000-ish Jeep Cherokee chassis.
Well, the
all-wheel drive.
Yeah, the Rambler was a unibody car, so.
Yep. All right, Colleen, but I'm just thinking any specific pictures that may help. Something specific he wants to show Deke.
Yeah. I booger welded it with a torch.
Right.
And a coat hanger onto this chassis. Well, that's a big difference between, hey, I migged it, or I had my my tombstone and I pretty much put about 400 rods on this thing.
And no gussets.
Yeah.
Mexican Spec. I'm going to be on the Gulf Coast for a few days after the No Name Nationals, but we can certainly talk about it when I get back.
How long will you need to recover? Hey, I need to look and see when...
362 days.
I need to look and see when Cruising the Coast is this year.
Yeah.
I might just disappear for a couple of weeks.
New Guys Guitar, your brother going to make it? Well, I sure hope so. But if you guys have any other questions about Passing Tech, the event itself, let me know. I'll get them wherever they need to go. If it's a Dallas question, I'll get it to Dallas. If it's a Deke question, I'll get it to Deke. If it's something weird, something that we need to get to the track, I'll get it to the track. Just let me know. But we wanted to offer this live tonight so that you guys would have all of the opportunity to ask while we had these guys here.
Oh, sorry, I'm just so tired.
We'll have our troll seating sign back, and we'll have all of our cool signage up again, and some new. So always going to have some few new cool different things. What about motorcycles, Mohawk? We treat those just like cars. So, like the 113 Cycles channel, Ryan there, he enters a motorcycle and he can run it in the bracket, and we treat motorcycles like cars.
Even in the 28-10-5 class. I'm joking. That's only a joke.
Now, monkey bikes, we do not. Monkey bikes, you don't have any additional entry fee, but monkey bikes can't run down the track with cars.
Yeah, they're in their own class. I don't even know who's running a monkey bike this year. Anybody running a monkey bike this year?
Well, we'll have monkey bike competitors. I have 2 open live slots coming this Friday. If our monkey bike competitors would like to do a live, let me know. Because we've had the bracket guys, we've had the 28-10-5 guys, and on Friday, September 8th, we're going to have a live stream like this with the Burnout competition competitors. So you'll want to see that. We're going to have Chris from Busted Radio Garage. We're going to have the Bad Tree Productions guys. We're going to have, hopefully, Square Body Chad can swing by for a while. We're going to have lots of guys talking about Burnout stuff. It will be a lot of fun.
Huh.
And, of course, William, our reigning champion, will be on the live. This is a good one here, One-Eyed Cat's got. So if you got any last questions, we got just a few minutes left. Go ahead and ask them before we call it a night.
Good Lord, Don English has a million
Batteries
questions about stuff in the trunk. He's got a lot of junk in his trunk. It's always asked about all night.
He doesn't want you to look in the trunk. That's why he keeps asking.
That's what I'm wondering, if there's something going on in the trunk there.
Yeah, there's 113 Cycles. He must have just been kind of listening in the background and heard his name.
He's saying batteries in the trunk, prefer a box or strapped. How big of a strap? Preferably it's box, Don. That way you can vent that box outside the trunk. Otherwise, the entire trunk becomes the vented area.
Yes.
Cave Dave, what's going on Sunday? You traveling home?
Yeah. So you can travel home Sunday if you want to crash the track Saturday night. The event will be over by dinner time-ish on Saturday. I expect a lot of people will want to be cooking out, hanging out, camping there Saturday night. But
yeah, we did that specifically because there was a lot of people traveling from all over, and it gave them a day to drive back before they had to be at work.
Right. So if you live 4, 5, 6 hours away, you may want to take off Saturday and go ahead and get back. But if you have a longer drive, and a lot of these folks do, and you want to crash the track Saturday night and drive out Sunday morning, you can do that. But I'll say this, Sunday morning, we want to leave that place spotless. If you see a piece of litter and it's not yours, pick it up anyway. I got to tell you, Dallas, he will not walk by a piece of litter. Dallas is always keeping the place clean.
I will now. It's not an AHRA sanctioned track anymore. I will. I'll walk right by it. I might actually just drop a deuce in the middle of the pits.
We won't leave that track spotless. And if Dallas does that, you got to get a video clip of it. You put a short up of that, and you wear a Free No Name National shirt. But no, we need to leave that track spotless. And I'll tell you, if everybody here picks up one piece of litter and doesn't leave any, but picks up one piece that could have blown in the wind out of somebody else's pit, the track will be perfect when we leave. Anybody else have any questions? We got just a few minutes left. Again, since we're at the half-hour mark, each half hour I like to put out anything new. The Thursday night after Lambert's, 9 p.m., we're going to have a 45-foot movie screen in the pits. 45-foot movie screen. You see those little dots by the screen? Those are cars. And we're going to be screening Smokey and the Bandit. So let's get in, get our engine shut off, keep it quiet in the pits so that we can have our movie at 9. Promises to be a lot of fun.
Danny Boyd's asking, you got a Nova, Dallas? No, I don't have a Nova. I'm pretty certain that Danny was a regular on my channel. I got a Ford Thunderbird.
Dust Devil. No, I'm not going to follow Dallas around with a baggie. I'm going to follow him around with a shovel, but the shovel's to whack him with if he does that. Thank you, Andrew. I appreciate you, man. Looking forward to seeing you.
I'm one of your biggest fans, Mr. Andrew Nelson, so I'm looking forward to seeing you guys out at No Name Nationals.
Thumper's asking what the movie is about, Smokey and the Bandit. Well, it's about a Pontiac guy who has to pick on big trucks because it's all he can outrun.
Oh, I get it now. I was like, man, Dan's on he's on my channel a lot.
Yeah.
And you said drop a deuce. I got you now. I have a Nova.
Well, Burns is asking who is racing with spare tires in the trunk. I don't care.
I used to when it was street class stuff. And then if it was like, well, I don't know how you guys hold time. Like, I have all kinds of little tricks that hold time. I'd disconnect the alternator. I would do stuff like pull the weight out in between rounds.
Dust Devil Garage, I got to tell you. So I knew that would be some stuff that would come up, but right now we got some fixed times. We're gonna have our movie, and I'm just hoping people will not be, trying to sit there and test a torque converter in the pits during the movie. That's all I ask. Is let's just
or drop a deuce in the middle of the pits. Don't do that either in the middle of the movie.
All right, Tony's getting his live set up. Tony's Hot Rod Garage is live right after us. He'll be live in 3.5 minutes. So go over there and check out his live.
I think I'm going to step out here right at the end because I need to use the restroom something fierce. So,
all righty, man. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Do you have anything extra you want to add to this, Deke or Dallas? We'll go ahead and wrap up right now.
Well, I think One-Eyed Cat had a question about the size of the strap to hold his battery down. It's 3/8 bolts with a 1/4 by 1.5 cross strap on top. So 3/8 all thread, for example, and then a 1/4 by 1.5 strap that straps across the top of the battery. Another thing I wanted to say, the steel valve stems quicker than 749, and 2 return springs for the throttle.
And the integrated spring on the throttle shaft can count as one.
That can count as one.
But if you guys have any extra questions, email them to me, john@PrincetonDragway.com. If you know how to get a hold of me, give me your questions, send me pictures. I'll send them to Deke or Dallas, and we'll get you something that'll help you. We want everybody to have a pleasant experience passing tech this year. But with that, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you guys for coming out. Next Friday, I'm going to have the Nelsons, Andrew and Calvin. I'll have John Cope, and we'll have Blake Robinson, a Bad Attitude C10 channel, and we're going to talk about things that went boom in a race car, things that went bad, how those guys survived their ordeal, and what maybe got learned or improved upon through it, and share with you guys. But that's kind of going to be the opposite angle of this. This live is about prevention of that stuff. That one's going to be what you do in the aftermath. But we'll see you guys next Friday. And other than that, thanks for coming out. Y'all have a good
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Deke.
Yep.
Thanks, John.
Yep. Thank you.